All right. Wow, guys, I'm so excited from all of you around the globe. This is super, super exciting. We have Dr. Paul Baratero here. We're just waiting for some more people to roll in here. But all the enthusiasm, all the excitement, we are ready, guys. And this is going to be a day, a night, an evening that you're not going to forget. This information is going to impact your life and your family's life for the future. So let's go ahead and start, Dr. Paul. Thank you so much for being here. For those of you that don't know Dr. Paul, Kim and I have gotten to become very good friends over the last couple months. There's barely a day that goes by that I don't talk to him. He's always telling me more information, and I'm so grateful for him in my life and his wife and his amazing staff at Synergy Science. He started Synergy Science back in 2010, and he's built a wonderful company with great products. We got water products, we have energy products for electromagnetic field. We have lots of different things we're going to talk about, but specifically tonight we're going to be talking about hydrogen and our health and what it can really do for us. And I have the guru himself here who's traveled all around the world speaking into very large audience. He's been on national television. He's an author himself. And so we're just so excited and grateful for you to be here tonight with us and today with us for all of you around the globe. So thank you so much, Dr. Paul.
Thank you very much. And it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with everyone. We have people coming from all over to learn about this. And I'll tell you, today I was interviewed for a summit having to do with immune function. And it's such a joy to constantly be educating on hydrogen. I've been lecturing since 2009 on hydrogen across the world. And I tell you, still to this day, so few people actually have heard of hydrogen water or understand that there are benefits to having hydrogen gas in water. So I love lecturing. I love educating. It is my favorite thing to do. And we need everyone teaching others, educating others about the vast benefits of hydrogen gas. Before we get into this, I want to remind everyone that your body, which is amazing, a wonderful machine, if you want to call it that, or a creation, however you see it, it's designed to make hydrogen gas, and it's critical to life. It is literally mission critical for being on this planet and for our body doing what it's supposed to do and performing the function that it's supposed to. And so I'm going to begin here just talking about why I started the company, which was to help people accomplish their divine potential. This is the why for me. This is the why for Synergy Science. I believe, and we believe as a company, that everyone has a divine potential and abilities to help love and lift and serve others. And we want people to be able to accomplish their divine potential every day because they have energy, because they're able to get up in the morning and go want to help people. If they're sick and not able to get out of bed, they're not going to serve other people. And so this is why we do what we do. These are our headquarters in Pleasant Grove, Utah. The company was started in Florida and now is domiciled in Utah. 3.5 years ago, I moved, and then we moved the company in 2019, August of 2019, to Utah. And this is where our headquarters, that's our building. And we have beautiful facilities that we'll be doing meetings, we'll be doing all kinds of things. But this is where all of your support comes from, is this building and the wonderful individuals in this building. So here are the product categories. We're just going to be talking about the Echo products today and the hydrogen, but we'll do additional videos on the other products. That's me, and I think you know enough about me, but that is me. I am a doctor of naturopathy. I'm also a certified health specialist and CNHP, and I have other things behind my name. We are a growing company. We've been in Inc. 5000 2 years in a row, and we'll continue to grow and progress and continue to lessen our number in Inc. 5000, and then we'll end up being Inc. 500 in the future. So let's get into the problem. The problem is oxidative stress and inflammation. And I think most people have heard of inflammation. I don't know if everyone has heard of oxidative stress, but oxidative stress and chronic inflammation are the leading cause of disease. This is really important to understand. There are hundreds of disease models that someone can contract, but it's really oxidative stress and inflammation that causes disease, or what we call the leading cause of disease. So if this is the problem, then it's easy to understand a solution. It's when we don't know what the problem is that we can't find a solution, but at least we know what the problem is for disease models. So let's get into that. Here are a nice little graphic and a list of things or conditions that people contract that have to do with free radical or oxidative stress from free radicals. Now, I will tell you in a few minutes that free radicals get a bad rap. Most radicals are actually life-sustaining, or what we call a physiological role in the body. They have a physiological role. It's only the reactive oxygen species. There are a certain number, a small number of reactive oxygen species, like hydroxyl radicals and superoxides and different things like this, that actually are cytotoxic, or that means cell damaging. So many of the radicals that we have all around us are actually life-sustaining. And so we shouldn't be so scared of free radicals. We should just be scared of the reactive oxygen species that typically get into our mitochondria and cause a lessening or a reduction of ATP, or energy production. But here is a nice little list you can see of different issues that can be in our body due to oxidative stress. So I'm sure you know someone or yourself may be experiencing one or more of these conditions. It's pretty typical in our society all over the world that you know someone. Well, guess what? If you know someone with one of these conditions, you can help them, because you can educate them on the fact that oxidative stress and inflammation is what's causing this. So if we lessen oxidative stress and inflammation, guess what happens to the issue? It goes away too. Now, you can see up at the top under brain, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autism, but guess what else we see? Bipolar disorder. I don't know how many people, but I've lectured all over the world, and I've asked for a show of hands of anyone that has or understands that bipolar disorder is due from oxidative stress. And I've never had a hand go up, because most people just think it's a neurologic issue. But it in fact is oxidative stress and inflammation from free radicals. And so therefore we can affect it positively. So keep in mind that when we're learning this, that you can help people. Immune function and oxidative stress. I want to share with you how it happens, or what the cascade effect is. Immune, as you see in the first bullet, immune function produces oxygen radicals while fighting pathogens. Now, this is a normal part of life. We're always going to have pathogens, and we're always going to be fighting them. That's what our immune function is for. Now, bullet number 2, oxygen radicals create oxidative stress. Number 3, oxidative stress produces chronic inflammation. Oxidative stress and inflammation are the leading cause of disease. Therefore, dysfunctional immune system results in oxidative stress, inflammation, and disease. Why? Because these first 4 bullets are normal processes, but your body would be counteracting them with your immune function. But when you have gut issues, and therefore immune function issues, you are not regulating these issues, and therefore you can end up with oxidative stress, inflammation, and disease. What we need to note here is that oxidation is normal. Oxidative stress is absolutely not normal. Oxidation is what keeps us alive, oxidation and reduction. And when we balance those two things, we end up with what we call homeostasis. When we have oxidative stress, this is where cells are not functioning properly anymore, and we start to have breakdowns in the body. So let's go to bullet number 2. Oxidative stress is the imbalance between the production of free radicals and the ability of the body to counteract or detoxify their harmful effects through neutralization by antioxidants. This kind of stress could cause disease models, and we know this. Bullet number 3, oxidative stress occurs and increases when our bodies fail to keep oxidation in a normal range. As I said a minute ago, Oxidation is natural and normal, but the body has to regulate it and keep it in a normal range, because if we don't, we'll end up with oxidative stress and inflammation. Now, the immune function is a complex network of cells and proteins that defend the body against infection. And that's simply what the immune system is. It keeps a record of every germ or microbe it's ever defeated so that it can recognize and destroy the microbes quickly next time it comes against them when they enter the body. The major function of the immune is to protect the host from environmental agents such as microbes, chemicals, and therefore protect the integrity of the body. Now, understand that this, when we talk about the environment, when it says from environmental agents, that includes air, that includes water, that includes chemicals. It includes a lot of things when we talk about the environment. And so it's very important that we understand the environment we keep has everything to do with what susceptibility our bodies have, or how much fighting our immune system needs to do. Just for your information, we're not going to talk about it much, but there are 3 types of immune function. One that you're born with, which is innate. One that you have based on your food and where you live and your habits in life. We call that adaptive. And then you have passive, which is borrowed, like breast milk, or when you're borrowing the passive immunity from your mother or someone else. And this typically is a short process. That's why we call it passive. Those are the 3 main types of immune function. And it's important that we understand you should have all 3 within your lifetime. The most important is the innate. And then the second most important is the adaptive. And the reason the innate is because that's what comes through birth. That's what you had to begin with. That's the military you were given when you were born to protect you. And it's really important that we protect that. And then the adaptive is important because that is based on food, lifestyle, friends, the communities we're in, all kinds of things like that. So it's really important that we understand what we need to do to protect ourselves and to have things going the way we want them to go. So here is immune function and how is it reduced in the body. Now, exposure to radiation, EMFs, ELFs, radio frequencies, and related systemic stress can definitely lessen our immune function and the function of our body altogether. Chemicals. I put in here overuse of antibiotics because antibiotics really change the polarity of our gut and damage our microbiome or our terrain in the gut. And therefore we have a problem because it is believed that 70% of immune function is tied to gut health. And gut health really means the types of bacteria in the gut. And we're going to go over this in a minute, but I want to say things a few times when they're important so that you hear them a few times during this process. Overuse of antibiotics. What does that really mean? Now, antibiotics are not bad if you have a life-threatening bacterial infection. So if you have a lung infection or you have a blood infection from, getting stuck with some piece of metal or scraping on something, if you have a life-threatening bacterial infection, the best decision would be to get an antibiotic of some kind. But when you do that, it's disrupting your gut and destroying the gut. So you need to very quickly reestablish the terrain and the biome in the gut so that the right bacteria can come and live. So that's what I mean by overuse. That viruses are not affected by antibiotics. The flu obviously is not affected by antibiotics. Only bacterial infections is why you have antibiotics. Consumption of pesticides, heavy metals, etc., also reduce the function of our gut. And so lifestyle, loneliness, grief, sedentary life, sometimes even too much exercise can reduce immune function because it puts too much of stress on our bodies. Some of you are going to be like, yes, a doctor told me I don't have to exercise. I'm excited. But the reality is it is our lifestyle that causes so many issues. And it's important that we have an appropriate lifestyle. High saturated fats, excess sugar, salt, alcohol, nicotine, dehydration. These are things that can greatly reduce our immune function as well. And literally at the end, the most important of all this is when your gut bacteria is out of balance, immune function is reduced. And the reality is that all comes down to what's called microbes, or what's called, microflora in your gut, but it's basically bacteria. So you have good bacteria that needs to be in your gut. And if we don't have good bacteria, or we don't have the polarity in the gut tissue itself, then we will not have the ability to have an immune function that is appropriate. Now, relationship of gut and immune function, 70% of immune function is related to gastrointestinal tract. That was not a typo. I didn't mean to put gut. It's the gastrointestinal tract. So the entire tract has bacteria. And 70% of immune function is related to the health of the gastrointestinal tract, which means what? It's really related to the bacteria that's there in the gut. The proper or healthy bacteria is anaerobic microflora, and it should be 91 to 96% of the bacteria in the gut, and only 1 to 4% is going to be aerobic bacteria. And unfortunately, with antibiotics and other things, you can reverse that, and that's where the problems come with depression and anxiety and food cravings with carbs and sugar and things like this. It's because the bacteria is demanding those foods. It's not your fault. It's the bacteria in your gut that's saying, no, 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 I don't want fiber and fatty acids. I want sugar and carbs. That's what I can process as aerobic bacteria. And so it's important that we pay attention to when we get food cravings, or when we're getting desires for certain foods, we ask ourselves, is this really what I want, or is it what the bacteria in my gut wants? What I'm going to introduce is a new concept right now, which is bacteria and terrain. It's all about polarity and the electrical potential in the gastrointestinal tract, primarily in the colon. It's important that we have a negative electrical potential in the tissue of the lining of the gastrointestinal tract, particularly in the colon, because if we want to have anaerobic microflora, we need a negative and electrical environment there. And the reason we want that is we want fermentation to occur properly. We don't want what's called improper fermentation, which leads to diarrhea, and it leads to some other things. So I said on here, build it and they will come. And it's really because there's a study out of Europe showing that we need at least a negative 300 millivolts in the tissue in the gut for us to have anaerobic microflora, and really to have the biome and the terrain correct. We need to have a negative 300 millivolts. And so it's very, very important. When we start looking at the gut, just as a fun piece of information, there's 100 trillion microbial cells in the gut, 10 times the number of human cells, and 150 times the genes carried by the bacteria of human cells. So guess what? It's your gut. It's your gut that's so much more important than the rest of the body when it comes to immune, when it comes to you, when it comes to genes, when it comes to all kinds of things. Now, what's the fastest way to restore gut? I believe that 97% of the population have dysfunctioning guts. Now, what does that mean? Well, I just taught you that 70% of immune function is tied to gut health. So if you have 97% of the population having dysfunctioning guts, then you have 97% of the population with somewhere between 30 and 50% immune function. And this is where you can greatly help them, is by helping them understand how to rapidly increase gut function and gut health, which is really all about polarity. So the fastest way to restore gut biome, let's talk about that. Here are some ways that you can increase your immune function: vitamin C, minerals, probiotics, herbs, what have you, diet, proper weight, proper hydration, healthy fats, vegetables, fruit. Obviously, this is common sense. Lifestyle, healthy exercise, not overdoing it, but healthy exercise and healthy relationships. And I know it's a shocker, but proper sleep will help your immune function. Now, restoring the gut terrain, or what's called the biome of the gut, is the best action when you want immune function increased. And the fastest way to do that is what I just taught you, which is getting the tissue of the gastrointestinal tract to a negative 300 millivolts or higher. So how do we do that? Well, here's the study I told you about, which is selective stimulation of the growth of anaerobic microflora in the human intestinal tract by electrolyzed reduced water. So what we see here is a study that was done years ago showing that if we get the negative value of the ORP to a negative 300 millivolts or higher, we can increase anaerobic microflora in the gut. And so this is a wonderful way to increase immune function and the health of the gut, which is again where immune function primarily comes from. So good news, hydrogen water can help. And let's talk about why. Now, when someone asks you in the grocery store or Target or wherever the heck you're going to be, hey, what the heck are you talking about hydrogen water? Why would I take that into my body? You need to answer them quickly, right? We don't have a half an hour. And you know the saying, when they ask you the time, don't tell them how to build a watch. So, or a clock. Here in this case, you should be able to answer in 10 seconds why hydrogen. And it's, hey, reducing oxidative stress and inflammation, which is the leading cause of disease. Number 2, repairing the gut and therefore the immune system. And number 3, increasing cognitive or brain function. Now, I have yet to meet anyone that doesn't want those 3 things. I typically don't hear people go, nope, I don't want improved brain function or cognitive function. So good news is you're telling them 3 things that they probably want and desire in their daily life. So let's watch a video real quick on understanding what hydrogen water really means. And the reason I'm going to show you this is when we run little posts or something on Facebook, do you know what the number one thing people say? Hey, hydrogen water, I don't understand. Isn't hydrogen already in water? Because it's H2O after all. And oh my gosh, if I had a nickel for every single person that asked the question on Facebook, whenever there's anything on there, holy cow, I would have a lot of nickels. The reality is no, hydrogen is not in water. Once H2O combines, once the hydrogen gas and the oxygen gas, they turn into a liquid. You no longer have hydrogen there. We have to add hydrogen gas, and we have to, more importantly, dissolve it into the water so that it just doesn't go straight out to atmosphere. So let's watch a quick little video for a visual.
There is no doubt that water is good for you. And thanks to breakthrough technology and recent studies on the effects of hydrogen water, it's growing in popularity. But what's the difference between hydrogen water and plain water? Let's dive deeper into the molecular makeup of plain water. Water molecules have 1 part oxygen and 2 parts hydrogen, and when they combine, the 2 molecules turn into a liquid. But what makes hydrogen water different? Echo machines are designed to dissolve more hydrogen gas into your water, making your normal water into hydrogen water with no pH change. In contrast to plain water, you can see that we now have H2O molecules as well as 2 parts hydrogen gas. These additional H2 molecules are unbonded and remain in gas form. So why is it better to have hydrogen gas dissolved in your water? Hundreds of scientific studies, including the studies by Medical Gas Research on hydrogen-rich water, have helped us understand that there are many biological advantages of drinking hydrogen water, such as neurological benefits that help improve brain function and boost energy throughout the day. In addition to these benefits, dissolved molecular hydrogen has been shown to reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, which are the leading causes of disease. Now you can drink with confidence, knowing the difference between hydrogen water and plain water. Be sure to hit subscribe.
Okay. I hope everyone enjoyed that, but it's good to have a visual to understand that you actually have hydrogen gas, 2 parts, H2, going into the water, and then again, we want to dissolve it, because if you want to get it into your gastrointestinal tract, it's got to get through the stomach, it's got to get through the duodenum or the duodenum, and it's got to get into the small intestine and into the large, or what's called the colon. So the reality is we need the hydrogen gas dissolved. It doesn't do any good to see all the bubbles in the water because that's undissolved hydrogen. What we want to see is no bubbles, and understand that we are saturating the water with hydrogen. And so we'll go through that a little bit later when I talk about mechanisms of delivery, and we'll talk about Boyle's law, and we'll go into how much hydrogen can be dissolved into a liquid at 1 atmosphere, which is typically what we're all in. Now let's get into what we talked about earlier, and let's review the hydrogen studies. The thing that I want you to understand is you just saw that video and it said 700 studies. Well, now it's 1,155 studies, over 100 human studies as well. Now, this is the best resource on the internet, hydrogenstudies.com. All that there are studies, and it's a database. You can type in whatever condition or thing you're concerned about. And if that is contained in the 1,155 studies or articles, they will come up and you'll be able to research them right there on your screen. Now, the thing in red, I want you to understand the outcomes of the following studies are not an indicator or a guarantee of any kind for others with similar or the same exact condition. So it's really important that we state that from a very serious nature, that any study you ever see is just for the individuals in that study, and that was the outcome of that particular study. But we never want to assume, hey, everyone who has this certain condition is going to be helped. We hope that that's the case, but we cannot state that because it is not appropriate in any way to state that. Now, let's talk about the foundational study that really got people excited about hydrogen. This was just a few years ago, and the reason everyone got excited is because Nature Medicine published it, and Nature Medicine is one of the most respected periodicals in the world, and they don't publish anything unless they've really, really vetted that it's real study. And if we go right to the middle where it says preventative and therapeutic, what they said is we induced acute oxidative stress in cultured cells by 3 independent methods. H2 selectively reduced the hydroxyl radical, the most cytotoxic or cell damaging of all reactive oxygen species, and effectively protected cells. However, H2 did not react with other reactive oxygen species which possess physiological roles. So I'm bringing you back to what I talked about in the very beginning, that there are radicals that have a physiological role and there are radicals that are reactive oxygen species. And this study, the reason it freaked everyone out and got doctors and researchers excited was because it acts as a therapeutic antioxidant by selectively reducing cytotoxic oxygen radicals. So this was very, very important and could be used. And as a result of this study, we now have 1,155 more that have come in 10 years after this study. So let's talk about colon cancer. This was a company that makes 5-fluorouracil. They wanted to see what would happen with this chemotherapy drug by itself, and when they combined hydrogen water with it and hydrogen water by itself. So here we can see, I told you earlier that oxidative stress and inflammation was the leading cause of disease. And I want to point out the first line in this is what? Oxidative stress is involved in cancer development. So the next line says hydrogen is a potent antioxidant and exhibits anti-inflammatory and potentially anti-cancer-like activity. Now, this is because this was in 2015, and the initial study was 6 years before that. Now, I'm going to go back. What did this say? This said in the first line that oxidative stress is accepted as one of the causes of many common diseases, including cancer. We show here that hydrogen has a potential as an antioxidant in preventative and therapeutic applications. So now let's go back. 6 years later, what do we see? Hydrogen is a potent, so not a potential. It's now accepted as a potent antioxidant and exhibits anti-inflammatory. And now what do we learn? Potentially anti-cancer-like activities. So if we really understand the progression of science, they now they have no doubt that hydrogen reduces antioxidant behavior or reduces oxidative stress and is an anti-inflammatory, but the jury was out at this time that it only had potentially anti-cancer-like activity in the body. So they were not convinced, researchers were not convinced, medical professionals were not convinced that it was an anti-cancer. They were convinced that it had potent antioxidant behavior and also anti-inflammatory. So now what are we going to learn here? we're going to learn in the middle, it says hydrogen water administration improved the survival of mice with colon 26 induced cancer. Furthermore, hydrogen water enhanced cell apoptosis in cancer cells. Now, that's critical. I'm going to explain what apoptosis is. Apoptosis is when cells are duplicating incorrectly. They are supposed to destroy themselves, and that's what they do. However, when a cell, a healthy cell, becomes a cancer cell, apoptosis is turned off somehow. We don't know how, but it's turned off. So what does that mean? The cells are not destroying themselves. That's why cancer can thrive. So when it says here that hydrogen water enhanced cell apoptosis, it's saying these cancer cells started destroying themselves because they were improperly dividing. This is very important. So now we can go down to the next yellow area that I highlighted, and it says what? High content hydrogen water exhibited stronger antioxidative and anti-cancer activity than did natural hydrogen water. Now, just as a note, the natural hydrogen water came from Mount Fuji, and they got this hydrogen water from the top of the mountain, and they were comparing it against water that would come out of a machine that would produce this water or any other mechanism of producing hydrogen water against naturally occurring. And so we learned a few things, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But I always like to go to the conclusion, and it says, in conclusion, high content hydrogen water can inhibit colon cancer. That's a very strong statement. The next statement is particularly in combination with 5-fluorouracil. Now, obviously, they wanted 5-fluorouracil to do well, but the reality was when you combined hydrogen and 5-fluorouracil, you got 100% cancer cell death. So this was a successful study, and it did show that combining hydrogen with a chemotherapy drug did have benefits because obviously hydrogen is an anti-cancer. So this was really important to understand that at the beginning of this, they said it's a potentially anti-cancer. At the end, it says high content hydrogen water can inhibit colon cancer. This is very powerful language. Now, just as a side note, the high content hydrogen water had 8 times the hydrogen content of the naturally occurring hydrogen water from Mount Fuji. Interestingly, in the blood, the hydrogen content only increased 25%. So even though there was 800% more hydrogen in the water, it only increased 25% hydrogen gas in the blood. So there is not a direct relationship with how much hydrogen you're taking in the body with how much can end up in the blood. So I want everyone to understand it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And that's what we need to understand. In diabetes, I spent many years in diabetes. Spent a lot of time there helping people, and I'm very passionate. You can see I've highlighted most of this because it's really good. Now, you can see again, oxidative stress is recognized widely as being associated with various disease and disorders, including diabetes, hypertension, and atherosclerosis. And now this is saying it's well established the hydrogen has a reducing action. So therefore, we're investigating the effects on what? Lipid and glucose metabolism with patients with either type 2 diabetes mellitus or impaired glucose tolerance. Now, this was a random study, double-blind, placebo-controlled study with 30 individuals with type 2 diabetes mellitus and 6 patients with IGT. And they were either given 900 ml, which is not a lot of water, but 900 ml of hydrogen water versus 900 ml of placebo water. Now, understand, it had a 12-week washout. There was an 8-week study. Let's go to the end and see what we learned. Well, not only did we have a normalization, 80% of the 6 individuals with IGT were normalized, and that's wonderful. We also had tremendous benefits with type 2 diabetes mellitus and insulin resistance. But we also had some other wonderful things that we learned in this study. Number one, a 15.5% reduction of LDL or cholesterol. Now, you may ask, why the heck in a diabetes study, would you see a reduction of cholesterol? Well, we have to understand why cholesterol is there in the first place. The body put it there because the plasticity of the veins and vessels was no longer appropriate, and the body, our body was, or their body was concerned about rupturing. And so the body uses cholesterol as a patch to make sure if there's a weak area of the vein or vessel, then they will put cholesterol as a patch to protect so you don't hemorrhage internally. So the reason you would see here that there was a 15.5% reduction of LDL or cholesterol is because you reduced oxidative stress systemically, and therefore the body no longer needed the patch because the plasticity of the veins and vessels was coming back. And so this we can explain these things. Now, let's get to the conclusion. That's always the fun part. In conclusion, these results suggest that supplementation with hydrogen-rich water may have a beneficial role in prevention of type 2 diabetes mellitus and insulin resistance. Now, that's awesome. I spent many years in diabetes preventing limb amputations, foot amputations, and death. So amazingly, it's estimated that over 30 million people have diabetes, and another at least 30 to 40 million are undiagnosed. So in some states, we have 20 to 30% of the population that have diabetes type 2. And it's very dangerous because it's what's called a quiet disease that you think you don't know something's going on, and yet there's macular and there's degenerative issues going on with the eyes, the vessels in the eyes, all kinds of different things going on in the body. And so it's unfortunate because damage is being done and they don't know. They're pre-diabetic or they have never had a diagnosis. And so you have microvascular and macrovascular issues going on in the body that are going undiagnosed for a while, and you know, they're still eating the way that they ate and still having the damage going on. Well, the good news is what one of the things that got me into this industry and this business was the fact that I gave the water to people with diabetes, and within many of them, not all, but many of them, within 3 to 5 days had normal glucose levels, and that was amazing to me. Let's shift gears a little bit to the brain. We did talk about one of the big things we can change is cognitive function or brain function. This is a study, and we have several, but there's a study on Parkinson's disorder or Parkinson's disease. And what we're learning here is that hydrogen, if we read in the second line, it says H2 supplementation of drinking water has been shown to exert disease modifying effects in Parkinson's disease patients and neuroprotective effects in experimental model mice, Parkinson's disease model mice. So what's interesting though, is it says on the next line, I didn't highlight it, but I'm going to read it to you. It says H2 supplementation does not result in detectable changes in striatal H2 levels. Well, what does this mean? Striatal means brain. So you didn't have any hydrogen gas going to the brain. So the big question is, what's the mechanism that caused the benefit to Parkinson's disease? If hydrogen wasn't going to the brain, what was? And so if we read down, it says what? Here we show that H2 supplementation increases gastric expression of mRNA encoding ghrelin, a growth hormone. So gastric ghrelin is what was going to the brain, and what they had was striatal ghrelin going to the hippocampus, the hypothalamus, and the brainstem to increase plasticity, increase normalization, and increase function in the brain. And so this is why we can help with neuroprotective or have neuroprotective effects, is because of ghrelin secretions. And hydrogen is the most efficient ghrelin aggregator, or what's going to induce ghrelin secretions selectively is hydrogen gas. As soon as you drink the water with hydrogen gas, within 2 to 5 minutes, you're going to have ghrelin secretions going to the brain. Now, here is a little example of what things can produce ghrelin. Now, you can see at the control group, the atenolol, the hydrogen, H2, and atenolol and H2. And what do you see? Hydrogen gas increased ghrelin secretions more than any other thing in the study. So this is where we can understand that there are neuroprotective effects and there are vast benefits neurologic to having people drink hydrogen in their water. This is a great graph with Dr. Kelly Miller. He's a chiropractor in Tampa, St. Pete area in Florida. And he has a device and he was testing a patient. This was a 62-year-old female patient. On the far right, you see a before and after. The top is before, the bottom is after. You can see significant changes in brain function with alpha and beta. You can also see over on the left a change in plasticity, 32%, and a 58% normalization of the brain. Now, this is significant. When he sent me these images, he said, Paul, this is shocking. It would typically take me 90 days to get this person these changes through a number of mechanisms that I would do. But this was just your water. All I did was give her a glass of water and we tested her before and we tested her afterwards, and he was shocked. So these are the kind of things that we can do. And of course, we do have this kind of equipment at our office as well, where we can, do that, but it's a very specific environment and a very specific test called EEG. Anyways, this I wanted to show you because I think having visuals like this is a wow factor in wanting to understand, holy cow, we actually affected this person very positively. Now, this is, for those athletes listening, this is muscle fatigue, a study with elite athletes. And these athletes were soccer players, and they were 20.9 years old, plus or minus 1.3 years. And they were either given placebo water for a week or hydrogen water for 1 week intervals. And then they switched it. And what they saw, you'll see in the second yellow part, it says peak torque of placebo water significantly decreased during maximal isokinetic knee extension, suggesting muscle fatigue. But peak torque with hydrogen water didn't decrease at early phase. Therefore, there was no significant change in blood oxidative injury markers and creatine kinase after exercise. Now, I love the conclusion. Adequate hydration with hydrogen-rich water pre-exercise reduced blood lactate levels and improved exercise-induced decline of muscle function. Although further studies to elucidate the exact mechanism of benefits are needed to be confirmed in a large series of studies, these preliminary results suggest that hydrogen water may be a suitable hydration for athletes. Now, I've known this for years because we have professional and amateur athletes. We have teams that use our water. We have a number of things that have happened over many years where we see individuals that either lift more weights in the gym. We have bikini models that have used our water. We have sports athletes, soccer players, professional. We have the number one tennis player in the world that's using our water. So we have all these kind of things that we have seen anecdotal evidence, but this was a great study showing us. Now, where should our hydrogen water come from? We know it should come from our gut. And if most people didn't have guts that were dysfunctional, I wouldn't have needed to do what I did. But because we have so much gut damage, pesticides, all kinds of issues and relationships and stresses, there is absolutely a good reason for me to have developed this machine that produces water with hydrogen and not changing pH. The only thing we're doing is filtering, dissolving hydrogen gas, changing the ORP to negative, and then we have frequencies, which we can talk about a little bit later. But this is how you would normally get hydrogen. It would be through your gut. And if you had a proper gut, you would have fermentation of fiber and fatty acids. Now, today we have gut, which will be the number one. We also have inhalation. And by the way, we will be introducing an inhalation device very soon. And then, of course, my favorite, which is dissolved in water. And of all of these, whether it's inhalation or it's hyperbaric chamber or it's dissolved in water, the absolute best is dissolved in water because, well, A, you're getting hydrated, and B, if you're trying to do inhalation, you need to be breathing for 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Who has time for that? Not many people, but you do have time to grab 16 or 20 ounces of water and out you go. And now you have the hydrogen in your system and you're getting hydrated. The other major thing, putting all joking aside, when we get hydrogen into our gut, that's where it's supposed to be produced in the first place. So we are mimicking the human body, and we can regulate all the pathways in the gut that we would have been producing hydrogen naturally. And so it's a far better choice than inhalation. You have far more benefits when you have hydrogen in the water and you're drinking the water versus inhalation. And so this is why water is the best mechanism of delivery, or method of administration, as we call it, versus inhalation. But we are coming out with an inhalation device because there are people that want to do that, and that's fine. And so we're happy to accommodate. Now, how much hydrogen do you need? You really don't need a lot of hydrogen. 0.3 to 0.5 parts per million is considered therapeutic. Honestly, after you have consumed a glass that has hydrogen, you have it in your body for an hour or two max. There's no need for high parts per million. Even though there are people out there promoting it, it's completely irresponsible. You do not need tons of hydrogen. Really, you just need hydrogen a few times a day to regulate pathways. This is normally how the body would do it. We would be eating food, we'd be producing hydrogen through the fermentation process, and it would be, a few times a day. This is exactly what we want. There has been no benefit showing when you have more than 1.5 parts per million. Most pathologies are not dose dependent, or in other words, you don't need a certain amount to have a benefit. And during the Parkinson's study, only 0.1 parts per million was needed to selectively activate ghrelin secretions or stimulate ghrelin secretions. Signal modulation is the benefit. And so you don't need a ton of hydrogen when it's signal modulation. You just need the presence of hydrogen. Now I'm going to begin the process to show you a proprietary process in our hydrogen module. Now understand, this module does not and cannot change the pH of water. This that you're about to see is demonstrating how our proprietary hydrogen module works. Now, off to the left, you'll notice during watching this video, the cathode is never in contact with water. Number one, that's critical. Number two, we produce hydrogen gas out of water. We send oxygen out to the environment, and we send the hydrogen gas out a specific port, and then we mix that with another stream of water. So the water that you're drinking never was in the electrolytic chamber to begin with. And so that's extremely safe. We never have the water you're drinking of the hydrogen water ever being in the electrolytic chamber or in contact with electrodes of any kind. Thirdly, we dissolve the hydrogen gas in water in a dissolving chamber after it's mixed. So we're going to show you that right now. This is our server, which is one of our devices, and you can see an exploded view of the system. So water's coming in, going through the pump. Now it's being split. Up in the top is the reservoir, and that's the water that will go down into the chamber. And then the part that goes down will be the drinking water. This is going to show you the electrodes. You can see on the right is the anode, and it is in contact with water. The one on the left producing hydrogen is the cathode. So you can see oxygen going out, hydrogen comes out here, and then we put an assembly where we're mixing water that you're drinking, and now you have hydrogen gas mixed with water that you're drinking. And so then it just goes straight out of the unit and goes up and out. Okay, so there you go. Now, hydrogen water and alkaline water, a lot of people ask me about that. Now, keep in mind, I started many, many moons ago, almost 17 years ago, 18 years ago now. And it was the initial machines that I did were alkaline water because we did not have the technology. We hadn't figured out yet how to make hydrogen water without also, as a byprocess, having alkaline water or increasing pH from hydroxides. We hadn't figured it out yet. And I didn't figure it out till years later, around 2015, 2016. So this is to give you a little bit of information. Hydrogen water is water that has no pH change. And to appropriately call water hydrogen water, you have to use distilled water And the device absolutely has to be able to produce hydrogen gas dissolved in a therapeutic concentration of at least a half a part per million, with using distilled water as your source water. So this is what hydrogen water means. This is what the industry from Japan actually teaches, and the International Hydrogen Standards Association out of Japan, which is headed up by Shige Ota, who was the one who did that first study with Nature Medicine. And so he's been in this process for a long time. But the reality is there's no pH change, and there is gas, hydrogen gas. This is perfect for drinking water. We're not messing with the stomach acid. We're not causing an issue with stomach acid. We want to make sure that's what's perfect for drinking water. So it does contain negative ORP, and it also has hydrogen gas in a therapeutic concentration. Now, there are currently 1,155 studies showing benefits for hydrogen. Hydrogen shown to reduce oxidative stress. We've talked about these things. On the other flip side, with alkaline water, the increased pH is great for cleaning dirt, but it's really not good for the body. And the reason that you say this is because as soon as you put anything alkaline into the stomach, the pH of the stomach is supposed to be a 4, bile is a 1.5. With gastric juices and other things going on, you have a 4 pH in the stomach. Anytime you put anything in the stomach that is a higher pH, number one, the pyloric valve is going to sense that, and it's going to dump it out into the duodenum or the duodenum, which is the reason why you have a faster gastric emptying. That's why, is because that substance, in this case, water with a higher pH, should not be in the stomach to begin with, and so the body dumps it out quickly. Now, keep in mind that you also are forcing that person to produce hydrochloric acid, or HCl. And many times people have a tough time doing this. And so it puts a burden on the body that is unnecessary. If we can keep the pH lower, we don't have the metabolic burden on the body. So higher pH water is not the best for drinking water due to buffering of stomach acid, which causes the body to produce HCl, and it's hard for many people. Now, there are not one single study showing benefits of drinking water from higher pH alone. There are studies that in the title say alkaline water, but when you actually read the study, it indicates that hydrogen gas was the reason there was a benefit. So there are still, to this date, never has been an actual study showing benefits medically from higher pH alone. Higher pH with hydrogen, of course. Higher pH with negative ORP, of course, but not due to higher pH alone. So understand there's going to be people that want to drink higher pH water. It does taste a little sweeter sometimes. You have what's called osmolarity on your tongue, and it does sometimes taste a little nicer for people. But please be careful not to drink higher than a 9. You can end up with potassium issues in the blood, and it's really not good for you. So this is to explain a little bit about why alkaline water machines in general are not good, because they will always have one inherent weakness, as that is calcium building up on the cathode in the chamber. So minerals that are positively charged are attracted to the negatively charged cathode. In water electrolysis, it would be a cathode. And this is not something you can stop because it is a natural law. Now, keep in mind, we figured that out in 2015 or 2005 and then 2007. Later, we figured out how to make water with hydrogen gas without ever changing pH. But in 2005 and 2007, we figured out how to reverse the polarity on the electrodes themselves every time the machine is turned on. And this keeps the calcium from ever having calcium bond. So in the Echo 7, which was the first machine that I developed in 2011, that patented technology was there. And therefore, we have machines still to this day that have never been cleaned since 2011, 2012, and they have no calcium at all. In fact, when Amanda was in the office, I pulled one out of a machine that we haven't made since 2014. And it had been in the field and someone sent it back in because they were upgrading their machine to one of our newer machines. And I pulled the cell out. We unscrewed the 14 screws that hold the chamber together. And I showed Amanda with her own eyes what a chamber looks like from our machine that has never been cleaned and that had been in service in a home since 2012. And so there was no calcium on it at all. And that's the benefit of this patent. This does not mean, though, that you will have calcium build up other places in the machine. You could have small, little, tiny deposits depending on the hardness of the water. And so we do have cleaning cartridges that we tell people use it every few years if you want. We haven't done a good job of telling people about it because most people are used to never having to clean our devices. And most waters, you're fine with that because you don't have calcium precipitation outside of our chamber. And because it's impossible for calcium to build up in the chamber, you just don't have many issues. But we do have cleaning cartridges and we do recommend people use them at least every few years just for peace of mind. Now, this is where I'm going to flex my muscles a little bit. Our machines, and keep in mind, we have machines that just produce hydrogen with no pH change. And we do have one machine, the Echo Ultimate, that makes hydrogen water with no pH change. And it also makes alkaline and acid water with 4 different levels of alkaline and acid. So we do have those available, and we do have the reversing polarity, the patented system, on so that you'll never have any mineral buildup in the chamber, the alkaline acid chamber. And with the hydrogen module, you don't have water ever touching the cathode. And so again, you don't have buildup there. So, and even if you did, it wouldn't matter because we're harvesting the gas in that chamber. We're not actually needing to dissolve it as a result of the electrodes. In an alkaline chamber, you are relying upon the electrodes to dissolve the hydrogen gas, and you have to keep the hydrogen gas very tiny, what we call nano size. And this is why calcium's a problem. When calcium bonds, you have a coalescing of the gas and you end up with very large bubbles that cannot be dissolved because you don't have pressure and you don't have time on your side. You're moving water through very rapidly. So in the Echo machines, if it's in the hydrogen module, you can't have calcium buildup, and we're only harvesting gas. So it doesn't even matter what type of water, distilled or anything else. When it's in the alkaline chamber, our water can actually use distilled water. And we actually are the only company in the world with certification proving this through a third party using gas chromatography. But we have the only device on the planet that has ever shown to dissolve 0.5 part per million of hydrogen gas in alkaline water in a traditional alkaline chamber that we make using distilled water. The scientists at the laboratory freaked out because they contacted me and said, how is this even possible? This should not be scientifically possible. And I said, it is the proprietary aspect of our electrodes themselves. And they said, holy cow, you told us about that. But now we're actually seeing it in action. This is amazing. So keep in mind, there are many proprietary aspects to our machines. I don't think we've done as good a job talking about it or telling the world, but I'm going to count on you guys to do that because you're better at it than I am. I'm just a doctor, and I'm not as good as you when it comes to sales, right? So in this patented reversing polarity, we are changing the polarity of the electrodes themselves. And understand, this is why you cannot have any calcium buildup on our electrodes. Now, we are the only water device manufacturer in the world that has met IHSA certification out of Japan. And this is the International Hydrogen Standards Association. And their standard is that you have to use distilled water and be able to dissolve 0.5 part per million of hydrogen gas in that distilled water. Now, not only did we accomplish that, but our devices dissolved 1.5 to 1.88 parts per million of hydrogen gas in distilled water. So nothing more pure. Now, you might ask, why were you able to do 1.88? I'll tell you why. Boyle's law says that you should only be able to do 1.6 parts per million at 1 atmosphere in a liquid. Now, we were using distilled water. So what we've learned and what the industry has learned is that when you're using distilled water, which has no mineral content, there's extra room in there for additional gas being dissolved. So this is why we're able to beat Boyle's law and get to 1.88 parts per million instead of 1.6 parts per million. Now, you'll see that in our system, on the right is a proprietary design electrode. It is a solid piece of metal, titanium, and it has 5 layers of platinum over every single millimeter of that electrode. And this design is proprietary. And this has been the design that we've used for many years now because it is up to 1,000 times more efficient than any other electrode on the market. Now, what you see in your picture on the left is the solid electrodes in our electrolysis chamber. And then on the right, we have a proprietary design. Keep in mind the Echo Ultimate, which is our only machine that we manufacture at this point that has an alkaline acid chamber, has 9 electrodes, and the solid electrodes you see on the left are the bookends. So we have 2 solid electrodes, one at both ends, and then in the middle or in between those 2 are 7 electrodes that are like the proprietary design you see on your screen right now. Now, what makes it different? Pushing electricity across the electrode on the left is far harder than pushing electricity off the surface of the proprietary design electrode on the right. Now, you will find if you do a study on electrolysis, every company that is any size in the world that deals in electrolysis is using some form or design that you see on the right. It's not this exact one because it's protected, but they have different versions trying to copy because of the fact that it has been shown to be far more efficient in electrolysis. Now, what do I mean by efficient? I mean that you can produce hypochlorous acid, for example, without having to inject salt into it. You can use the chlorides and the chlorine in the natural water and produce hypochlorous acid because you're actually performing electrolysis on a deeper level. If you were to look under microscope on both of our electrodes, the solid and the proprietary design, you will see that you have peaks and valleys. We do not have a smooth surface on purpose. The more smooth the surface, the less effective the electrode is, because you only have one axis or one vertices, as it's called. In our electrode, we have 3 different vertices that we're accomplishing electrolysis on. And the fact that you have peaks and valleys, the size, the actual surface area is many times. It would be like an electrode 100 times the size. And so it's just like a mountain. If you drive around a mountain or next to a mountain on a flat road, you can cover the distance much faster than if you were trying to drive up this mountain. If you could drive up this mountain, across the mountain, and back down, the person on the street next to it that's on a flat surface would be well ahead of you, because the surface area, if you flatten that mountain out, is far longer than the road that would be next to the mountain that is flat. So understand that there are proprietary aspects, and we are going to create brochures for you. We're going to create all of the amazing proprietary aspects of our equipment and why it performs better, why we can produce 0.5 part per million of hydrogen gas with distilled water with a normal chamber, what's called an alkaline acid chamber, and why we can make 10 pH water in distilled water. It's because of the effectiveness or the efficiency of the electrodes. And that is based on an undulated surface, which is peaks and valleys. And it's also based on the proprietary design, as you see on your screen, which forces the electricity to fan out and not take a path of least resistance across a solid piece of metal. This is just an example, and I honestly don't know whose product or whose chamber this is. This just was a picture that was sent to me. But this is an example of calcium buildup on an electrode. And it's important. You also can see some of the surface area gone on this electrode, the platinum being gone. And so it's very interesting and unfortunate, but this is what will happen without cleaning alkaline chambers that are from other companies. This is something you never have to do with our alkaline acid chamber or our hydrogen module, because it's impossible for calcium to bond in the electrolytic chamber itself. So when you have calcium buildup, you have no hydrogen gas and you have lessened or no ORP. Keep in mind, and I need to teach you all this, hydrogen gas and ORP are not exclusive of one another. You can have ORP without any hydrogen gas. It's due to an alkaline chamber. And so we're going to teach you the science behind all of these kind of things, because there are laws that govern all of this stuff, and they are not mutually exclusive. They are not combined. You can never say, because I have ORP, I have hydrogen. It's completely inappropriate to believe that or to understand that, because this is chemistry. And so we are going to teach this. We're going to continue doing these training, and we're going to help people understand what to say, what not to say. So this is the Echo Ultimate. I'm just going to go over this for a second. This is our high-end machine with 10 languages. It obviously, you can see the faucet on the right. The machine has a 7-inch color touchscreen, as you see, and then the faucet has a 3-inch color touchscreen. And so it's very beautiful, very high-end metal faucet, solid metal faucet, very, very beautiful product. And again, it makes filtered only for coffee and tea and large drinks when you don't need hydrogen because you're heating it up or what have you. Then we have hydrogen water, which 1.81 parts per million was accomplished in this machine. Alkaline, 4 levels, acid, 4 levels with hypochlorous acid, filtration replaced at 1,000 gallons. And again, you can use it at 110 or 220 anywhere in the world you want to. It'll automatically adjust. Here's the Echo H2 machine. This is our workhorse. And this too can be put on top of the counter or below. But you don't have a digital faucet with this. You have a manual faucet, as you see. And the digital faucet with the Ultimate, by the way, comes in 3 finishes. This faucet, these come in 5 finishes. This machine makes 2 types of water: filtered only for coffee and tea and drinks, and hydrogen water, which has no pH change. So that's what this device does. And of course, it has the same exact filter as the Ultimate, which we'll show you in a minute what we filter out. But this is a great, affordable device that's going to improve health. The reason someone would choose this, if they're just saying, look, I don't care about disinfecting water, cleaning water, alkaline acid, I just want health improvement, this will be a great machine that'll save them money. If someone says, no way, I want beauty water, I want the acid water, I want hypochlorous acid, I want alkaline to clean dirt, then the Ultimate is perfect for them, because it has the same water this machine makes, as well as the cleaning and disinfecting water. This is our Echo H2 server. This does not have any filtration. You have to use it with a filter of some kind that's going to remove at least chlorine. We have an Echo RO system that I developed that partners or combines with this perfectly to produce 1.2 liters of reverse osmosis water per minute. And this machine will produce 1.2 liters a minute of hydrogen water. Now, this is our one machine that can go to your for your fridge. If you have the line to your fridge under your sink, you can send water to your fridge for ice and water, and up to the faucet you see on the screen there. There's a pump inside and there's a pump in our RO system. They work together to have a nice flow of water. And this unit is pretty small, 9 by 9 by 4, very nice little workhorse as well. And keep in mind that this unit is excellent when you're combining it with reverse osmosis. It is of the healthiest water you can put in your body. And we'll talk about reverse osmosis, because I know some of you may be thinking, wow, how can reverse osmosis be bad because you've removed the minerals, and won't that be harmful to the body? Absolutely not. That's false information. Nothing is less true than that statement. Reverse osmosis water, distilled water, pure water is of the best water you can drink, because you have no contaminants in it. you're not expecting your body to be a filter. You have filtered out contaminants before. And we'll talk about the minerals in a minute. So I'm going to move forward to the Echo H2 pitcher. Now, this is the Echo H2 pitcher. Currently, we sell it. There is no filter in it. But in the very, very, very near future, in fact, it's in the injection molding and is being done right now, there will be a drop-in filter that will be equivalent to like a RO type filter or softening filter that's going to be excellent for this. So now you'll have a pitcher that can filter water if you're traveling, and then you make the hydrogen. And so it's going to, I think it's going to round out this product even more so that you'll have a filter and it will feel like a finished product. Currently, we sold it and it didn't have a filter. And some people are like, oh, I have to go buy water. And so hopefully there still will be people that will go buy distilled water or reverse osmosis water. But for those that want to have easier way and they just want to use tap water and have it filtered, we'll have that available. This will do a half a gallon of water, whereas the Echo Go will do 10 ounces. They both produce a lot of hydrogen. This Echo Go has a 3-minute and a 10-minute cycle. The pitcher obviously has a 10 and 20-minute cycle because it's more volume, higher volume of water. So here are the main 4 systems that we have. The 2 on the left being portable, the 2 on the right being machines. And the reason we call them machine is because it has a filter in it. And it does actually filter water. Now, in the 2 machines on the right, we also have the Synergy resonance technology, and we'll do more videos on that later. But that basically is a system that puts frequencies in your water. You can choose brain, eyes, parasite elimination, sleep support, coronavirus support, menstrual support, chakras, all kinds of things you can put in your water, homeopathy, Bach flowers, you name it. So let's get into some certifications. We do have it, and we're going to do a whole brochure on this, and we're going to do more later on having you understand, but we do have ISO 9001, ISO 13485, ISO 14001, CE, and understand that there are individuals that are saying, oh, this machine or that machine is a medical grade or a medical device. That is illegal to do. Please don't do that. It is illegal in the United States of America to refer to a product as a medical device when it is not considered a medical device in that country. So for these devices to be considered a medical device, the FDA would have to consider them a medical device. The FDA in the United States of America does not in any way, shape, or form consider water electrolysis devices as a medical device. They are classified as a health device and therefore have no controls of any kind. Now, in the country of Korea and the country of Japan, these devices are considered medical devices. And our registration number in Korea with the KFDA is number 610. So our devices are medical devices. The Echo Ultimate and the H2 are considered devices in Korea. And for $1,500 to $3,000, I could have them considered a medical device in Japan as well. That's really all it would cost. But it really doesn't matter because, again, if the device is not considered a medical device in the United States of America, it is illegal to sell that device by referring to it as a medical device. And technically, if anyone wanted to challenge another company that was doing that, they could seize all of the imports from that company if they were taken to task on this fact. Please, we do not in any way call or say our device is medical, but I will tell you that you have the certifications there. You have all the ISO certifications, and these devices are built in a factory that are assembled in and have ISO certifications. So you can understand why I want you to know that, but then also why I don't want you to say this is a medical device or medical grade, because there's no such thing as medical grade anyways. It's just marketing terminology. You either have a medical device or you don't have a medical device, and that's based on the country you're marketing in. If you were to go to Korea, you would absolutely call it a medical device, and you could tell everyone and their mother it's a medical device and here's the registration. But in the United States of America, it's inappropriate to do so. Let's talk about filtration. Here is our main filter. It's just an example. You can see it removes pesticides, chlorine, chloramines, bacteria, viruses, fungus, metals. It removes majority of metals. So you also see it has NSF ANSI 42 component certification. And so again, we have excellent filtration. We have excellent results. And here you can see glyphosate. You can see after filtration right in the middle, not detected, not detected. This was done in 2019, looking at our filter, and you can see that we had that. Here is a metal scan done many years ago on the filters, and you can see whichever one you want to look at. Lead, for example, about middle of the way through, you can see that they had 197 expected. They actually had 209. And what did we take it down to? Less than 4. So you can see that we're removing lead. You can see that we're removing arsenic. You can see that we're removing all these kinds of things from a very large amounts that they start out as, and you can see that they're reducing them. Mercury, for example, is on there as well. You can see that it was 3.74 was expected, 3.5 was there, and you can see that our filter took it down to less than 0.02, which is huge. Deuterium, this is another big marketing program going on. People are talking about deuterium depleted water. I just want to spend a second on this. Deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen, and it's in every single water source on Earth. It doesn't matter if humans touched it or not. If it's a lake, a river, a stream, ocean, it doesn't matter. It has deuterium in it. And typically you have the levels that you see there on your screen. And what you can see, the line, the black line that went from yellow to green, that's simply what happens in our devices. We do not remove deuterium, but we will lessen it when it goes through our system. This is the Echo RO system. It does produce 1.2 liters a minute of pure water, clean, smooth, tasting water. You have rejection of contaminants and TDS. Now you still have roughly 5 to 10% of minerals left in the water. But please understand, the minerals that are in water naturally are inorganic. They come from dirt or rock. They're not what your body needs. Your body needs organic minerals from vegetables and fruits that take up minerals in an inorganic state from the ground and change them to an organic state so that your body can use them. So it is a bit of a wives' tale or a misnomer that somehow reverse osmosis or distilled water would leach minerals out of the body. It's completely false information. And if that were the case, then people in Seattle, Washington that have almost no minerals naturally in the water, also people in Italy, Germany, Switzerland, South Carolina, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, would all have widespread mineral deficiencies. And we just don't see that. We do not see it, and you never will, because water itself does not need minerals to be complete in any way. So there would be no reason that water would leach minerals out of your body. This is the Synergy resonance technology we talked about. It is built into the Echo Ultimate and the Echo H2 machine. This is something you have to register or activate. It is a subscription, and it does not require electricity, Wi-Fi, or Bluetooth. It uses quantum entanglement. And so this is what is good to understand, that not only with our machine can you filter water appropriately, you can add hydrogen, you can have the negative ORP for the gut health, and now you can have frequencies, which is amazing. Only machine in the world that does this. And so you have that available to you. Here are some testimonials. You can see, I know everyone loves testimonials. So this is a person saying they love their machine and their inflammation in their knees started to go away. They noticed their joints feeling better. And eventually I was able to stop taking many of my medications. And so this is excellent. Here is 2 testimonials saying we are never sick and aren't on any medications now. And this is what's happened ever since. You can also see a 77-year-old individual that says they have more energy and increased memory function because of it. Excellent, excellent. Now, this one, was a chiropractor. This person was introduced by their chiropractor. And just as a side note, that's where we've lived for the last 10 years. We primarily are sold through medical professionals, chiropractors, functional MD offices, influencers who are medical doctors, and people that endorse the machines that I've developed. So we really were not a direct sales company or a multi-level marketing or any of this kind. We were selling through doctors' offices and direct to consumer through webinars done as a result of medical professionals. So please understand, this is why you may or may not have heard about us in the past, but yet you see a chiropractor telling their patient about it, because that's primarily where we have been marketed through as medical professionals. I know that's good news for you, because medical professionals typically choose high-end products and things that work, because the last thing they want is for a patient to try something and then have it be a problem. So the fact that we are selling through doctors and medical professionals should help you have confidence in our products. You can see here, I was introduced to EcoWater by our chiropractor. I was impressed by the science, but the taste was amazing. It was so refreshing. So we bought one back in 2016 and have used it daily since. It certainly supplies energy, mental support, a lift to life in our senior years, because they're 80 years old. I had not realized the importance of hydrogen, but it sure has made a difference for us. So this was just, again, someone who sent in information. So that's my presentation. I hope that helps. We will do more of this. We will get deeper and deeper. We're going to be doing brochures for you. We're going to give you all the marketing collateral that you need, so that when you're marketing, you have the ability to have trust and transfer that trust to someone else with a company that you can feel 100% comfortable sharing the information from. And we will be providing you brochures. We'll be providing you back offices. We'll be providing you videos. We'll be providing you everything that you need to be able to accomplish what you need. So I think we're ready for question and answer now.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dr. Paul. That was wonderful information. And for all of you watching, if you do have a question in the chat, just go ahead and type it in the chat. We're not going to have time for everybody's question. So what we'll do is on the sales page below, we'll have all the common questions. Yours should be in there and we'll answer them there. And then we also have a product page right below that you can go order your product. And we also have financing on the website. We also have a video down there on the compensation plan as well. So I'm going to go and scroll here through and look at the chat. All right, here we go. Dr. Paul, does microbiomes in our gut make H2 better in a plant-based or meat-based diet?
That really wouldn't matter. Both have fiber. So what you have is water-soluble fiber, which definitely vegetables have and meat has. So when you ferment vegetables or meat, the fiber that's in there and the fatty acids is what hydrogen trophs. So this, we didn't talk about it, but hydrogen trophs are a bacteria within the anaerobic microflora family that actually convert short chain and medium chain fatty acids and fiber into hydrogen gas. So it really wouldn't matter the diet, as long as you're varying your diet and getting short chain, medium chain fatty acids, as well as fiber, what's called beneficial or water soluble fiber. Now, vegetables are going to have that, because that's most of what vegetables are, but you can also get some of that through meat. But I would always say a varied diet is healthy. If you, for some reason, cannot and do not want to partake of animal-based products, I don't have a problem with it, but you're going to need to get some amino acids and some other things into your system. And sometimes people use fish for that, or they use other things. But I can tell you that vegetables will provide you with sufficient hydrogen. And of course, you can get that from meat as well. But I think we know beans, right? Beans, the magical fruit. So beans can also accomplish, or legumes can accomplish, because of the fiber.
All right, thank you. Next question. When you said, when we see bubbles in our water, this person has another device where I see it looks like carbonated water. Does this mean it's not dissolved hydrogen?
When you can see them, it is not dissolved. That is correct. If you can see the bubbles with your eyes, it is not dissolved, because dissolved means it is in the solution as a dissolved gas. It's not combining with H2O molecules. It's still H2 gas, but you cannot see hydrogen gas that's dissolved. You also cannot use, I've seen people using the flame. I actually started that whole process many years ago. And I was actually doing that to show that many systems have undissolved hydrogen, because if you can put a flame to water and it's popping, that's undissolved hydrogen, not dissolved, because when you have dissolved hydrogen, it won't react with the flame. It is in the water itself, and it's not reactive anymore. So you have two reasons why you would see gas. And I want to make sure people understand this. You have two reasons you would see gas. A, because it's not being dissolved, or B, you've hit saturation. In other words, the maximum amount of hydrogen gas that can be dissolved in the water, and therefore the excess you still see as bubbles. So you don't have a way of knowing just by looking at water and seeing bubbles. Unfortunately, you have to actually test the water with the H2 Blue. And I'm going to tell you all, do not use ORP meters or do not use H2 meters. None of them are accurate. They're all negative ORP meters that they call H2. It's completely inappropriate. And when you use negative ORP meters anyways, with one measurement of negative ORP, you have to condition that probe again, because it will be off. It'll be off until you condition the probe again. So I would tell you, we sell a product called H2 Blue. It uses methylene blue and platinum colloid, nanocolloid. This is the only way to inexpensively test hydrogen gas in water. And it comes with a beaker, and you put one drop in, and if it goes clear, then you have hydrogen gas. If it doesn't go clear, then you don't have hydrogen gas. We don't test our devices with this mechanism because it's only titration and it's not laboratory level. We actually, all of our testing for hydrogen levels is done with gas chromatography at an independent laboratory in Las Vegas called H2 Analytics, and they use gas chromatography.
Wow, amazing. What about fluoride? I know that's really hard to get out of your water. Does these devices, the filter, get out fluoride?
Okay, great question. Actually, the filter that's built into the Echo H2 machine and the Echo Ultimate will remove fluoride, but will not remove all of fluoride. So if you are concerned about having all of the fluoride or majority of the fluoride, then you need to order the fluoride filter that is external to the machine. They would be replaced every 6 months, and that's what you should be ordering, is the fluoride removal filter. That will guarantee you. Now, the other way to do it is get the Echo RO. That, of course, is going to remove fluoride completely and everything else. So that is the most pure water that we make, is reverse osmosis system. Keep in mind that it does not have a tank. So you're never waiting for reverse osmosis. It's always producing it on demand. And you won't have fluoride. You won't have radiation. You won't have any heavy metals, pesticides out. It'll remove everything. So it is the healthiest water you can drink.
Fantastic. What about the warranty of the machines?
Great question. So all of our machines have, and let me say it this way, all of our devices, the Echo H2 server, the Echo H2 machine, they both have 5-year warranties, and that covers parts, labor, and return shipping, as long as it's a warranty item, which means a manufacturer defect. In other words, you have a machine, there was a part that was defective, and it comes back to us. We replace the part, and we do not charge labor, parts, or the return shipping. You get the return shipping back to you no matter where you are in the world. When it comes to the Pitcher and the Echo Go, those are 1-year warranties because they're battery operated products, and we wouldn't warranty them longer than that, but they will last longer. And even after they're out of warranty, if there is a repair needed, or battery replacement or something else, it's very inexpensive. But the Echo Ultimate carries a 7-year warranty, parts, labor, and return shipping. And again, if it is a defective part or it is a warranty item, then it's covered for 7 years.
Brilliant. What's the difference between drinking water from this Echo machine or taking hydrogen tabs?
There's vast differences. The hydrogen tablets they're separating water molecules, but they're not getting rid of oxygen. So you're going to have a recombining going on in the bottle. Also, some people are sensitive to the sugar binders and can end up with diarrhea. And finally, some people don't like the taste because you're only dissolving half the magnesium that causes them to work. So you have a magnesium taste, and some people don't like that. The other issue is you can have mold building up in a container if you don't clean the container. And finally, it is the most expensive way known to mankind to get hydrogen water is through tablets because they're really expensive. We used to sell them. I mean, we had pallets of them. And when I developed the Echo Go, which is 1.88 parts per million, and it costs roughly the same as 2 or 3 bottles of tablets, but you have it for a long time, it makes no sense to get tablets because you can put hydrogen and water much better with the Echo Go, and all you have to do is recharge it every time, and it's pure water. You're putting pure water in it and you're getting pure hydrogen water. So yes, it is a way to get hydrogen, but it is the most costly, and it's really not the most effective.
Great. In order to make the hypochlorous acid like you talked about, is there a salt solution that comes with the machine, or what's it cost to purchase the salt solution?
We do not have salt solution. It is not good to inject salt into a machine. It will strip platinum off the electrodes. And so we do not use that. We can produce tons of hypochlorous acid without needing any salt or heightening agent to increase the conductivity of the water. In other devices, you add salt when you need or want to increase conductivity of the water and therefore heighten electrolysis function. We don't need that in our Ultimate. The only 2 devices that produce hypochlorous acid water is the Echo Ultimate. And again, how are we doing that? Let me explain the chemistry because I think it's important that people understand. Naturally in water, you have chlorides. Also, in tap water, you have chlorine. When tap water goes through a carbon-based filter, you convert chlorine into chlorides. You also have naturally occurring chlorides. When those chlorides go through electrolysis, they are converted into hypochlorous acid. That is the chemistry process that happens, or the reaction. So that's how you produce hypochlorous acid without salt. Now, when you do use salt, you're actually producing hypochlorite. You're not actually producing only hypochlorous. You're producing hypochlorite because you have salt and you have chlorine, also chlorine gas being produced. So when you're adding salt, you're breaking NaCl. You have a chlorine there with salt, so you're going to have chlorine gas, and you're going to have hypochlorous acid, and you're going to have hypochlorite because of the salt. And so this is not what we do. We produce hypochlorous acid, and hypochlorous acid is more stable in 4 to 5 pH water rather than lower pH water. So I hope that helps.
Very much so. Dr. Paul, drinking hydrogen water that you're talking about should not cause us to feel detox symptoms like a headache or running to the bathroom or upset stomach, should it?
That's correct, because it never was detox symptoms. That was simply what was said to, when someone gave a complaint, that was a way to overcome that objection. It actually is called a Herxheimer effect. And when you give certain percent of the population, about 15%, maybe 20% of the population at most, they react poorly to higher pH water because it throws their body out of balance. And you end up with what's called a Herxheimer effect. And they feel detox symptoms, sometimes like the flu, and then it goes away. It's because their body has balanced into a place of handling the higher pH. And so that's really what's going on. Because you're not increasing pH, you're not putting people out of balance, and hydrogen is innate to the body. And so you would never create a Herxheimer effect. You would never create any kind of a detox symptom. The only thing that I have heard, it's pretty rare, but I have heard people that have kind of a euphoria type feeling. And that's because of the ghrelin secretions going to the brain and changing function of the brain where they haven't had ghrelin secretions in the past. Now they have it. You end up with a kind of a euphoria feeling where they're feeling something in their mind, but it's not uncomfortable or problematic. It's just what euphoria feels like.
Super. How long does the sanitizing water effective for?
Oh, that's right. I didn't talk about the clean. I talked about the ultimate making hypochlorous acid. We also have a product called the Echo Clean, which is a spray bottle, and it will make hypochlorous acid. You can add salt to that. We do include a salt container because you're not drinking that water. And we're not concerned about the, getting onto the, the electrodes, because you're going to shake it up. But again, it's not a drinking device, so it's important to understand that you're typically not drinking it. The only time you would use the salt, even with the Echo Clean, is if you want to get over 200 parts per million of hypochlorous acid and you want to spray it on hard surfaces. Anytime you're using it on the skin or eyes or what have you, you would definitely not use the salt, because you don't want chlorine in your skin or eyes. So when you're spraying it on the body, then you would not do that.
Right on. Thank you so much. All right.
Did that answer all of that question?
I think so. Yeah. I think, just so with clarity, we have a spray bottle that makes hypochlorous acid, and you can use it with salt in there or without salt. With salt, it's much more sanitizing, but on the skin, it would burn the skin, or it would irritate the skin if you were using hypochlorous acid on the skin with the salt.
Great. Awesome. Well, you would not want to put it on the skin when you use salt, because it's not good. You would want to use it for skin without the salt. And honestly, you can run it several times. It's a 3-minute cycle with the Echo Clean. It's not a rechargeable product. You actually plug it in and then run the cycle, then unplug it and take it wherever you want it to go. But you can run with the Echo Clean, you can run it 2-3 times if you want to create more hypochlorous acid. Just don't run it more than once when you have the salt. It's sufficient. And also, there's a little scooper that comes with the salt container. You put some salt in and then kind of swirl it around, shake it a little bit so that the salt dissolves. If you don't, salt will fall down and go right directly on the electrode. And when you try to run it, the unit will turn red and tell you, sorry, you can't run it right now. And all that's telling you is that you got to shake up the solution so that you mix up the salt and have it dissolved. So I hope that helps. I can tell you that we are going to do more and more training like this. You all do not have to be perfect. You do not have to be able to give a presentation like I do to be able to go and promote. We would love for you to do the best you can, find your way to Synergy Science University, get trained, get certified, but during the meantime, tell everyone about it. You're going to get passionate like I am. You're going to get excited. And you can absolutely tell other people about it, but you can get started without being perfect, without being able to say everything I just said. I've been doing this for a long time. So I don't want you to feel, that you have to be able to communicate like I do. I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to go out and bless lives and do the best you can. And as you continue to increase your knowledge, you'll get better and better. It's naturally what happens.
Great. So for all of you that are on the call here, we also have our own training system that Dr. Paul was talking about. It's called Hydrogen University. So when you get signed up, when you order your machine, you go through this university where he steps you through exactly how hydrogen works and all the ins about it, so that you have access to. On top of that, I host Zoom trainings twice a week, Wednesday and Saturday in the evening and in the morning. We also do live presentations every Thursday that you can also plug into. So I have lots of support, and we're very excited to bring you aboard. And we do know this: successful people take action. Unsuccessful people take a long time to make a decision, and then once they do, they tend to back out. So I want you to really commit if you want to do this, and take action if you want to be a success taker, because this is an opportunity that you will regret if you don't get into it now, because you will see this building all over the world, and now is always the best time to take action. So with that being said, I just want to thank all of you for coming. I know you're going to see the opportunity like we do. So what you're going to want to do is jump down below. You'll see the link. go ahead and purchase your device. If you've got more questions, we do have all the questions laid out for you there. If you have more questions on top of that, you can always schedule a Zoom call. You'll see the link there for that. And we love all of you. Thank you so much for spending your time with us wherever you're at in the world. And we really appreciate each and every one of you. And we look forward to training you and you having the Echo Water in your body. Thank you.